Hi, welcome back to part 3. Now we're still using the 2020 and 2019 PSLE MCQ questions, but in this one we'll revise life and physics science together and look at the second category of questions, what I call the memorize by heart but with a slight twist, or you need to make some inference, or just do a little bit more work like studying given diagrams. Let's get to the questions now. Right from the 2020 paper, we'll be looking at question 12 and 13 on circulatory system and cell system. And then we'll also look at the electrical system as well as property of materials And next up we're looking at from the 2019 paper will be on characteristics of living things, transport system. This is interesting, just looking at graph to look at relationship. Electrical system on bulbs in parallel and arranging bulbs to increase or decrease their brightness, whether they're in series or in parallel. Okay, now the first one here we talk about blood flowing. So this is your circulatory system. Now typically for a circulatory system, you're used to seeing different formats. Now what you're used to seeing will be in this format or in this arrangement, right? Where you inhale air from the end of your lungs and the oxygenated blood will flow to your heart, which will pump the blood to the rest of the body, and your body will use oxygen and give out carbon dioxide, which will flow in the blood back to the heart, pump to the lungs, and you exhale out the carbon dioxide. Now, how does SEAB twist this format? Well, they can arrange it in a horizontal way. Okay, so how would you focus on this? For me, I'll still look at the lungs first. Alright, so what happened to the lungs? So try and use the same thing here. So here, if you look at the lungs, okay, so I'm just used to here. So let's make a comparison. So see, lungs, heart, and instead of legs, it is now rest of the body, right? So that's the idea here. So blood transport, blood richer in oxygen, we know is from the lungs to the heart. So therefore here C must be one of those blood richer in oxygen. Same thing, these two. And any blood that flows back to the heart, going to the lungs, are all those that are poor in oxygen. Because the lungs is where you get rid of the carbon dioxide when you exhale. So answer for this would only be number 4. Okay, so if you're unsure about this, just draw this out and use this to help you understand. This is actually a very basic question that they just change the layout a little bit to try to see if you can be confused by this. Next one. Now, Kim cut a root into pieces of the same size. She placed each piece in a glass tube. Now, each tube was kept at a different temperature, so there's some difference here. Okay, different temperature. And this is the highest temperature. This I make it red, highest. Now, glass tube, okay, and there's roots inside. The root cells contain a red substance. And what happened to the red substance? The substance will turn, okay, dark pink at the highest temperature, light pink at the lowest temperature. Now, the root cells, talk about cells here. So what do you know about cells in the roots? We know cells in the roots will have parts such as the cell wall, okay? It has your cell membrane, it has your cytoplasm, it has also the nucleus. Usually what you learn is the root cells do not have a chloroplast because they do not make food, they are underground, they do not receive light. So which of the following explain the observation? Alright. And the important information here is that the root cells contain a red substance. And somehow the red substance, and water, you know, it is transparent, right? Some of the red substance could get into the water. You see, it became pinkish or dark pink. So how did it get through? Which of these actually has a function of controlling the movement of substances in and out? That will be the cell membrane. Right, so cell membrane control movement of substances. We know that as temperature increases, right, more and more of the pink substance inside the roots can enter the water through the cell membrane. So as temperature changes, well, the certain effect must have increased. What effect increased? Cell membrane allow more red substance to move out. This one matches the evidence here. Okay, at 40 degrees Celsius, the highest temperature, the water turned dark pink. So more red substance moved out. Temperature increased. Answer is number 4. Okay. Next question. Alright. Let's take a look at this one. Study this circuit. When one bulb was blown, the other bulb did not light up. This tells me that the bulbs are arranged in series. Alright, that's why when one bulb fuses, then there's a gap in the circuit, current cannot flow. Which bulb was blown? Now, for me, I'll be using a pencil or paper, and just for example, let's say I cross this one out, alright? And say, okay, what happens if this one blows? Can current flow? See, A cannot flow through, there's a gap here, everything, and the other means everything else did not light up. Answer is C. Alright, that's it. Right? Because for current to flow, I need to trace everything out from plus to minus. So instead of going to the right hand side, I go to the left here. I see one bulb. What happens when this one blows? Okay, because if this one blows, current can still flow through here this way. If this one blows, current can still flow through this way. If this one blows, current can still flow through this way and this way. If this one blows, current can still flow through this way. No matter what I noticed was current must always flow through C. So if I blow C, make this part blow or fuse this, then none of the rest will light up. Let's go to the next one. Now, Xiaoming observed 4 solid blocks made of material A, B, C, D. He classified them as below. This on buoyancy, on transparency. Now, one is a metal. Now, we know a metal definitely do not allow light to pass through. And we know that metal do not float in water. Okay, metal do not float in water, does not, okay, and does not let light pass through. Answer will be D for this. This kind of question is slightly harder because you have a diagram like this, a flow chart to interpret. So you can look at the options, look at the questions, how the branches go in a different direction to try to understand this. So you trace this through, like how I did it just now. Does it float? No. Can light pass through? No. And of course, I must know the property of metal to begin with. That is my memorized by heart. Metal sinks and metal is opaque. Next one is from the 2019 paper now. Very simple. Again, we have a flow chart to interpret. Now, so which one shows the correct classification of animals in box X and Y? So X, this one is a different direction, right? The other one we trace from top down. This one we trace from bottom up. X has a heart, has a shell, has scales. So animals with scales, I know that will be a reptile. So here I see this is a reptile, this is a reptile. But the thing is, this is the one with the shell. So it is not this, it is not this one. So Q is X. Let's check. X will be my Q. Okay, I have 2 choices. Now let's look at next one. Y doesn't have scale, so this is definitely not a reptile. It must be R. Alright, answer is 4. So this one requires you not to just look at the flowchart. You also have to understand the classification here. And know some simple examples from your textbook of what could be amphibians and what could be reptiles. Next one. A diagram shows how water and substance flow through different parts of a plant. Now, of course, you know the basic part of a plant, right? You know that plants would have your roots. It flows up, the water carries it to the roots, to the stem, and then to other parts of the plants like the leaves, like the flowers. You have water carrying it in all these parts, also in the fruits, alright? So water will just flow through this, up from the, absorbed by the water carrying tubes in the roots, flow up the roots to stems through all this. Now, so we know direction of water flow is important. This part is important. This one tells me that where the roots are. So if let's trace, let's wait where it comes from. C must be the roots because this is where the arrow is coming out from, right? Water is leaving this, so it must be water leaving this up here to other parts. So now C must be roots. Okay, I have two choices here now. Now I look for food. Okay, substance P, my guess is it would be food. Now, if there is food, then A must be a leaf. If A is leaf, let's check if that's correct. So I need to check my understanding. If this is food, how does it work? Food will flow down the food carrying tubes to, this is probably the stem, then through the roots. Food will flow through the food carrying tubes, also to other parts like maybe the flowers or fruits. Just like this, right? Food made flows through all parts. This one makes sense. B, no, this one makes sense. Answer will be 3 for this. Remember, this is still the easier questions where you use a basic concept. The difficulty comes from understanding these kind of diagrams. Next one, this is from your workbook kind of question. Laura cut out the lower stem of a white flower. White means you're going to turn this into a colored flower. Now, there are separate water carrying tubes in the stem, and the water carrying tubes do not mix. They are separate water carrying tubes carrying different colored water. After a short time, she observed some part turn red. That will be on the left-hand side turn red. Okay? And the parts that turn yellow will be on this side that turns yellow. Right? Because this is your yellow water, yellow colored water. So then she made 4 statements, and the rest remain white. So some parts of the flower, well, the water carrying tube didn't reach there for some reason. Food made by the plant was red and yellow. No, this is from the water, so this statement is wrong. Okay, oh, that's a bit too big. Alright, A is wrong. The stem transported a different colored water to the flower. True, the stem contained the water carrying tubes. I'll put it as correct first. No colored water were transported to the flower parts that remains white. That's true. There were no water tubes in the flower that remains white. Has to be true because there were no tubes. All the stems were already immersed in the colored water. Okay, so my take is B, C, D are correct. So answer is 4. Next one. Okay, again, a question can be made more difficult by throwing in things like a graph. Earlier on, it was a picture with some statements. But it still go back to your basic concept. Here is about your respiratory system in a plant. Greater the amount of carbon dioxide in a town, the fewer the number of tiny openings called stomata. So more carbon dioxide, alright? So there will be fewer stomata. Interesting, fewer stomata. We have fewer of these stomata. Which of the following support his prediction? Now, this one we're not sure what concept. This is basically graph reading question. So, as the amount of carbon dioxide increases, so we look at increases, right? So more cars produces more carbon dioxide. So 0 to 5, 6 to 20. So we are looking for this one. This part here should be the tallest bar. Okay, tallest bar. That will mean that this is wrong. It's not the tallest. This is not the tallest. So these are 2 possible bars for the graph that shows more carbon dioxide. They say that the greater the amount of carbon dioxide, the fewer the number of tiny openings. Now, so greater, oh, sorry, I misunderstood this. Let's start this again. The amount, so here I misunderstood because, you see, a mistake can be made. I must match with this, the fewer. So if I say this is correct, it means more carbon dioxide and more number of stomata. This is wrong. So actually I should switch this around. Okay, I should switch this around. You see, why is this wrong? Because it says more carbon dioxide, more cars, more carbon dioxide, there's more stomata. Here it says more carbon dioxide, fewer stomata. Okay, so these two are wrong. So these are the two possible correct ones. So what's the reverse? If the greater the amount of carbon dioxide, the fewer the stomata. That means if the amount of carbon dioxide is lesser, then there'll be more stomata. Fewer cars, more stomata. It seems that this number 4 is the answer. Circuit question. Now, why do I put this under a slight twist? Usually, when you look at circuits, right, when it's drawn for you, they draw the circuits like this, in a very rectangular kind of structure. So here, they literally twisted the circuit to make it a rhombus diagonal shape to see if you are confused. But it's still the same. Basic component is still battery, wires, and something like a bulb. Alright, and current can only flow in a closed circuit. So clue here says when one bulb is blown, the tree remains lit. This tells you that therefore the bulbs should be arranged in parallel. Unlike the other one that was in series, it remains lit. So which one blows? So let's say if this one were to blow, I have to be in red color to make it obvious. Okay, if this one were to blow, current can still flow through, you see? If I use this as a current can still flow through. The tree bulbs remains lit. Alright, so therefore, the answer for this is D. Alright, D is the answer. Alright, last question. Identical batteries and bulbs are used to set up the two circuits. Which of the following are true about the brightness? So you must know this, basic fact. So you arrange bulbs in series. Alright, if you have more bulbs in series, then it becomes dimmer. Each bulb becomes dimmer. And when there are bulbs in parallel, the brightness remain unchanged. Okay, same brightness. So let's change this color to blue for parallel. So I will say that therefore A and C are in parallel. Okay, and what are in series? Well, D, C, B are in series. Current flow like this, it is current flow. Alright, so I will say that these three bulbs, bulb B, C, D, are dim. Okay, now how about here? These two are dim as well because these two are in series. This is the brightest bulb. Okay, I have two options here. Dimmest bulb here would be BCD. As I mentioned, BCD. So answer is this choice here. Okay, BCD. The answer is 4 for question 22. Alright, so that's all for going through of this particular paper. And I hope that you managed to benefit something from going through the slightly harder kind of questions. Alright, I'll see you in the next video.